Good afternoon to you and welcome to the Ocala Winter Circuit here at HITS for the Longines Grand Prix. It's a $265,000 class. It is the Friday feature of what is now Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup of the United States of America here this weekend in Ocala, Florida. So we build up towards that all-important team competition, the first of the new paradigm, the new situation of FEI Nations Cup jumping. Longines stepping in last year as title sponsor at the finals in Barcelona, and now they take the title sponsorship of the series, and this is the US leg, part of a leg that also sees competition at Jalapa in Mexico and T-Bird in Langley, British Columbia. And we start really strong here. Scotty Keach for Australia, the Australian Olympian. He won this class 2 years ago. He's going to be first into the ring today. And we go right the way through then to Cian O'Connor, last year's winner. In the mix there, Paul O'Shea, Scarlet Lens presence. Paul with a top 10 down in Wellington, Florida, just 2 weeks ago. John Mcrae and his wife Christine both riding here. Kat Tyree, who jumped so well at the Longines FEI World Cup jumping qualifier in D-Ridge at Wellington just 2 weeks ago. Marcus Beerbaum jumped well in the 5-star at the Winter Equestrian Festival last week. Lauren Huff and Laura Cried, they're both very much in the mix for World Equestrian Games selection for the United States of America, and certainly good performance here this week will do them no harm. McLean Ward, he's here with Gigi's Girl, the reigning World Cup champion. Eric Lamar's Olympic champion, being followed into the ring by Daniel Bloom, and a 5-star winner last weekend down the road in Wellington. There's Cian O'Connor with his new ride, Clenur, the former Marco Kutscher horse. In towards the end, the American Gold Cup winner Devon Ryan, the Palm Beach Masters winner Daniel Coyle, and former World Cup champion, Olympic medalist and part of the US team that was second here last year. Anchor leg. So Marina Azevedo, Marina who in fact this time last year was designing for the very first time her first Nations Cup competition in her career. This year, with this show stepping up to 5-star, this will be her first time designing a 5-star show, and thus on Sunday a 5-star Nations Cup. That is a big thing with the new Longines series, that we're going to be running our Nations Cups in the main on Sunday as the final feature class of the entire week of show jumping. So this Grand Prix class moves now onto the traditional Nations Cup slot of Friday. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Squad riders are automatically pre-qualified for this Grand Prix, so there's certainly an advantage to be here representing your nation. But the chef d'équipes, everyone wants to ride the Grand Prix. The chef d'équipes now have the job to do with owners, with riders, to manage performance across the week and get the right horse and combinations into the team on Sunday to represent their nations. But as I was saying, Marina Azevedo with the track set here, 74 seconds the time allowed. She's really used the big space available here in the HITS Post-Time Farm Grand Prix Arena, and I think we're going to have a very interesting first round here, and we'll see how many clears we get coming back for the jump-off in this prestigious competition. As I say, we're going to start with a former winner in Scott Keach in just a few minutes' time. We have last year's winner Cian O'Connor in the field as well. So the scene is set for the first of 41 who will come forward to take the lion's share of $265,000 on offer in today's Longines Grand Prix. So Scott Keach is our first to go. Scott for Australia is going to ride Fedor by Kashimir von Schuttershoff. Scott jointly owns this one with Southern Cross Equestrian. Has been a great servant to Scotty. Scotty rode at the Rio Olympics as a show jumper. He rode at Seoul in eventing. He won this Nations Cup Show Grand Prix here in Ocala in 2016. He was top 10 in the 5-star Grand Prix at Tryon, North Carolina last October. Top 10 in the WEF Challenge Cup and the 4-star Grand Prix 2 weeks ago down in Wellington, Florida. So rides that first line towards the in-gate. We have a roll-back turn here now on the left to jump the Great American Insurance Group fence. One of the biggest so far, standing as good as metre 60 as a vertical. So it comes up there on 5 and 4 over the two castle fences at 6 and 7. Five curving strides there from the back of the triple bar onto the next. He's got a tough draw here, Scott, going first, but he is definitely one who could hold right the way through to win this. He's done it before. Very nicely up the triple combination line. He's going to be caught out by the time, unfortunately. 74 seconds the time allowed. He is clear, but he's 76.84, so it's 1 for time at the moment. Now, the judges have the option of seeing up to 3 full rounds of jumping before they have to decide whether to stick with this time allowed or whether they will make an adjustment. But based here in Ocala, Florida, Scott Keach makes the hometown advantage really count for him. One of Australia's
and number 884 will come in to challenge next. Number 884 is Contendros. Andres Ascarga has the ride aboard for Jaime Ascarga and family. The 11-year-old Hanoverian Stallion Hill Show to rep
Contendros by Contendro. Andres jumped in the 2-star tour last weekend at the Winter Equestrian Festival 5-star week. He had 2 in the top 10 at Estado Mayor Presidente in Mexico City. Jumped the July meetings, the 5-star weeks at Spruce Meadows, including an under-25 podium, and jumped in the 5-star tour last spring at Longines Global Champions Tour Mexico. So this is another angle on the turn back from 3 to 4. You can see coming down. It's also a little bit skinnier than normal, that fence, standing at the full metre 60. Andres just pushes out of the corner to get up this distance, loses the horse's attention after the double, and lucky not to have both of those castle fences down, but he's carrying 4 faults. Now, at the moment, these riders thinking that perhaps the judges won't take the time, they're starting to hustle a little bit, and of course that can force an error. A little bit of exuberance there from Contendros as they roll up on this final line, starting over the Nations Cup jump at fence itself, a Longines triple combination line. They're all just coming up pretty sweetly. We can see here again, though, one over the time, 76.74, very nearly the same time.
Nearly identical on the clock, but for Contendros, will finish with just a single rail coming down at fence number 6.
We get a hold of the Mexico, who will be represented here by a team on Sunday in the Longines Nations Cup. Aaron Vail. Aaron, the first for the United States of America with Hayes Investment Corporation's Casa Vail by Cassini. Aaron, a class winner at this show last year. Top 10 in Grand Prix at Kentucky Horse Park, Devon in Pennsylvania, and the Upperville Horse Show in Virginia last season. He won the Puissance at Washington, a class he's been inside the top 3 of for all of the last 3 years, and took a top 5 in the Longines World Cup qualifier at Washington indoors in October as well. So really no question of why Andres had his pole down just a moment ago. We've seen Scott Keach jump clear over the poles, but at the moment we're just waiting for somebody to try and go both clear and inside the time allowed of 74 seconds. Now, if Aaron gets all the way to the finish, he is our 3rd completed round, and it will be then at that point that the judges must make their decision as to whether they're going to alter this time. Just rolls a bit free down that distance, and the triple bar will set you that little bit forward on your distance. It's kind of the trick that Marina Azevedo has set up for the riders there. Six strides into and out of the triple combination. He comes home a little bit faster. 4 for jumping and 1 for time is still the tariff, but it's 75.18. That's the fastest anyone has gotten from beam to beam at the start and finish. So Aaron Vail goes into 2nd at the moment. Scott Keach leads on 1 fault. So at the moment, no start signal yet for Kyle Tim. The judges just having that conversation about the time allowed. Well, there we are. The bell goes, so it will be the same time allowed. Kyle Tim with Apex Equestrian Centre's Double T. This one, the Irish Sport Horse by Lux out of a Cannon mare. Kyle is based in North Carolina, rides for Canada, so being based in North Carolina in Apex, he jumps a lot at Tryon. He had some good results at Old Salem Farms May meeting last year. Took 2 trips to jump a couple of European shows last summer at the beginning and end of the summer season, and took a top 10 in the Kentucky Horse Park Grand Prix last May. Now, unfortunately, the horse just going right backwards on him after the first fence, going back towards the in-gate, and it was always going to be very difficult to clear that second, so he picks up an early 4 fault. Kyle is a returning rider here to this Nations Cup week at Hits Ocala. Just can't really get the horse to react and listen to him the way he wants, so the poles are going somewhat frequently. Carrying 12. It's going to be very interesting to see. You know, we have some strong competitors now. It is a drawn order. It's a weighted order. The second half of the starting list are the higher ranked riders. And at the moment you would go, gosh, you know, nobody has made it faster than 75. Have they done the right thing? I think with the quality of the field, they probably have. And it will just tweak up the difficulty of this track as well. If the riders had 77, 78 seconds to get around this track, we'd see a lot less errors and we'd see a lot more clear rounds, because riders of this caliber, if you give them too much time to set up each and every jump, they're almost guaranteed to jump clear. Kyle Tim and Double T, though, not just having the best day, they're going to be on a total of 15. 12 for jumping, 3 for time. Those time penalties coming in at the rate of 1 for each 4 seconds over the time allowed. Here's his first problem. Double T off the leg down that first related distance from 1 to 2. So for the United States of America, Shannon Clifford jumped a couple of five-star weeks at Spruce Meadows, took a podium in a Grand Prix at Angelstone last summer. She does a lot of jumping up in Canada and jumped the test event at Tryon in North Carolina last October. Shannon Clifford owns and rides Riesling de Millevault. You see her riding this horse in a bitless bridle, a hackamore. Going pretty sweetly so far. Just have they got enough pace for that 74 seconds time allowed? That's the big question. Really picks up there between the two castle fences and makes it happen out over the reverse Liverpool vertical. The water tray sitting out behind the poles rather than midway under. Still a lot of jumping to go, though, including the triple combination. Five more jumping efforts. And already at nearly 70 seconds. First part of the triple is down. Again, just getting in that little bit close. The horse just going that little bit longer and lower on the final line. Could sense that the course was nearly over.
Go down the last line, a great course all the way up until there. We'll finish up with two rails coming down in those last few obstacles, and we'll finish with...
and Shannon Clifford, but also
you just watch again, and it's really the first time the horse and ignore what Shannon is asking. And again, Shannon just couldn't adjust, getting into the right spot. So they ended up with that uncomfortable jump over the last. Felipe Amaral with Premier Cartos. Felipe had a very good Nations Cup season in 2016. Unlucky to miss out in the top 10 in the Grand Prix at Le Ball. Third in the Nations Cup Grand Prix at Lumen. Felipe rode at the Toronto Pan American Games, has been individual gold and team silver at the South American Championships, and is the first, but probably won't be the last, to take a pole at Fence 1. Felipe Amaral leads the South American South League of World Cup jumping at the Brazil at the Nations Cup finals in Barcelona in 2016, and has already shown a couple of weeks down in Wellington. Just uses a little bit of drift after the in and out before the first of the black castle fences to create the space for this horse's stride. The riders will do that. They know exactly what they're on. They'll have made their plan. Clear the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup fence. Very neat into that triple combination. Again, just bows the line a little bit to the third part. Gives it a light rub, but it stays in place. So it is the very first fence down and a
well, the fastest time we've seen so far from the field, the time is 74.53. Nice and efficient here for Felipe Amaral. We'll finish, however, with a single rail.
There's no doubt it is going to be influential, but there is also no doubt that somebody is going to get inside that time and do it with a clear round. So this Grand Prix today, the lion's share of $265,000 to the winner, and that is not going to be easily won. Andrea Torres Guerrero with 50 Shades by Call Me Number One. Jumped at this show last year, a regular at the World Cup qualifier at Live Oak here in Ocala, Florida, which is the other side of town, and that's coming up in mid-March. on the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. Andrea showed at Tryon in North Carolina throughout the summer, including picking up her first international class win last October. It's a real bundle of energy, this horse. Andrea, if she can just maintain the control and the accuracy, might not have too many issues with the time, but that rollback turn to the Great American Fence, it is down for 4 faults, so we still await our first clear. Just running really free there, just getting beyond her control, a little bit faster, the jumps then coming up out of stride for her. And again, rides the 5-stride distance there, but the 5 strides, the way they went, would just bring her too close to that vertical after the triple bar as well. You push that little bit forward, and you need to sit up for the vertical. And Andrea puts the hand up. She knows it's not quite going her way today. Going to save this horse for some more jumping this weekend here in Ocala and over the next few weeks in this spring season, but retires today in the Longines Grand Prix.
So again, the first field will welcome in a number of our competing countries. Next to the show here today, representing Germany, or NKH Colombo, here's Christian Heineke.
Your German rider with over 40 wins in Grand Prix action over the last 5 years. Aboard the 10-year-old Zangerscheid gelding and something of a new partner, it's NKH Colombo on next.
He's a former winner of the Las Vegas World Cup final and also World Cups at Burbank. And he's twice won the Omaha Grand Prix there in Nebraska as well. Christian, for Germany, they'll be one of 6 nations lining out here on Sunday in the Nations Cup. Rides NKH LLC's NKH Colombo. Still waiting our first clear round. Trailblazer Scott Keach is sitting in the lead at the moment on 1 for time, otherwise clear. In fact, he's the only rider to have cleared all the poles so far as well. Christian Heineke is our 8th in the ring. Just showing real adjustability there. And again, on the landing, Christian just brought the pace back, got exactly what he wanted for that big vertical, and then pushed the throttles forward again. He's got that time really in the forefront of his mind. This is looking very good at the moment. Over the oxer. Vertical, just a few strides to go. He needs to get this right. He's just going to miss the time. And he trails the front bar off the last as well. So from a clear to suddenly being on 5-4, Christian Heineke
trying to save it, but we'll still catch that front rail and a single time penalty.
That goes into 5th. Scott Keach still our only 0 over the poles with 1 for time. Real shame, because it was a lovely round of jumping and Christian had just made some super adjustments, just showing the real quality of Colombo as well. Fabio Livas with Tosca de Lesk. Fabio is 2nd in the Nations Cup Grand Prix at Sopot in Poland a couple of seasons ago. Rode Nations Cup for Brazil at Le Ball.
We'll take on the course next. Joining us from Rio and now making the move to Belgium, he'll ride for Brazil with Tosca de la Q.
Qualifiers down in South America as well. Brazil, another of our 6 nations for Sunday. We have Ireland, Germany and Brazil going up against the 3 countries in this region that will host Nations Cup legs. the United States of America, Canada and Mexico. Well ridden down there. The horse was just going that little bit forward, and Fabio just stuck with it, created the jump through those castles, and ends up further than some off that vertical. Plenty of scope to clear it. A light belly rub then. He's hustling towards this last. He's just going to miss it, and the same as Christian Heineken, he's going to have the front rail as well. Fabio Levas da Costa is 75.55 on the clock. 4 for jumping, 1 for time. 5 faults, goes into 4th position. Another one for Mexico, Enrique Gonzalez with Chakna. Enrique is a runner-up in the World Cup qualifier at Las Vegas, winner of the World Cup qualifier at Del Mar. He jumped throughout last year's Longines Global Champions Tour season. Rode Nations Cup for Mexico at Gijon in Spain. Enrique has ridden at 2 World Equestrian Games and represented Mexico at the 2008 Olympics and took team bronze at the Guadalajara Pan American Games in 2011. Chakna by Chaco Blue. Clear to date. Now he's 33 seconds after the 2 castle fences. That's fence 7 of 13. He's keeping up a good pace. Now we'll watch him now if he really moves on in the way we saw Christian Heineken did, because this is a long turn back to the FEI Jumping Nations Cup fence. You've got to make the best of that time spent turning. First part of the triple is down. The time is potentially doable from here. This will be the first one inside the time allowed. He is 73.09, so the time can be done, but he is got 4 faults from the triple combination, so Enrique Gonzalez goes into 2nd place at the moment. He's our 10th to jump, but that is the one the riders have been waiting for. Scott Keach proved #1 in the ring, that everything can be jumped clear. Enrique Gonzalez has proven that you can go 9/10 of a second inside this time allowed. Now, the fastest anyone else had been half a second over. Felipe Amaral for Brazil achieved that. If the first clear had to come for any nation, the crowd here in Ocala would love it to be for the United States of America. David Beisel has that opportunity. Harlow Investment Enterprises, Call Me Hannes by Cassini. David was on the podium at the Great Lakes Grand Prix last summer, jumped in the Saugerties Million, and has placed top 5 in that class in the past. Took his first international win at Tryon, North Carolina in 2015, and jumped this class here 12 months ago, the Longines Grand Prix of Ocala. So just a moment ago, we saw a first round inside the time, but it was with a pole down. Scott Keach is still our leader, the Australian 2-time Olympian, in the clubhouse on 1 for time just. David gets his act together. That pole really awakens him, and he rides so positively then into the next fence. He doesn't want to be on any more than 4. He just hooked a little bit. You could see one hand really holding back, going to that vertical after the triple bar. That's cost him a second pole. Just on to the last now. Is he going to catch the time? He could easily do so. Just outside, 74.26, a quarter of a second over. It's 8 for jumping and 1 for time for David Beisel and Call Me Hannes. We just watch again here. He sees the stride he thinks he wants, he catches it behind, and then David really makes the jump happen coming out here over the reverse Liverpool. Lisa Goldman owns and rides Hindsight, the 11-year-old by Vision. Lisa again qualified for the Nations Cup Grand Prix here last year. Had a light international schedule across the summer, but jumped at Great Lakes, at Balmoral Park in Illinois, and at Split Rock in Ohio, and has had international wins at Split Rock, at its Kentucky base, Longines Global Champions Tour Miami, the Winter Equestrian Festival, and also has been an international class winner at the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky. So first in a while to get up that line, including the orange and white double clear. So has to go 6 there to the vertical, gets away with it. Just getting in close to the jumps and ending up on quite an uncomfortable spot. And that's the first time this horse's somewhat uncomfortable jumping pattern comes back and haunts them, but then the horse just decides, no, I'm not enjoying this, puts on the brakes, and that disobedience results in a fall for Lisa Goldman, and any fall is elimination. So close to home. Unfortunately, they'll take no further part. Again, we've just seen that series all the way from the triple bar of uncomfortable jumps, and I think having had a series of uncomfortable jumps and then also just clipped the pole, the horse is just feeling no. And its view is just full of those blue and white poles in the triple combination. Well, we go back to Canada, another rider who's represented his country at the Nations Cup finals in Barcelona. Ben Asselin with Attaché Stables, Cool Feeling. Ben is a former North American junior individual and team gold medalist. He jumped some West Coast World Cup qualifiers last autumn. He won the Nations Cup Grand Prix down in Mexico at Jalapa in the 2016 season. And this time last year, he was jumping in Europe instead of the Florida Winter Circuit at the likes of Neumünster, the VR Classics in Germany.
We've seen just one other issue come
Aslin sadly with just the first, with cool feeling. He goes into third on 73.28, but with just one clear at the moment. Scott Keach finishing on 1/4. Could he still end up inside the top 10 on that fast four? He's a little bit slower than Enrique Gonzalez. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Australia are going to turn out a team on Sunday, which would have been Rowan Willis's first Nations Cup appearance for Australia. But he's here, jumping for them this week in Longines Grand Prix. Rowan Willis, UK-based for a long time. He won the Grand Prix at Bratislava last year. He won 2 Grand Prix at Samarin in Slovakia. Rowan owns and rides Blue Movie. Although he's UK-based, he has done a lot of international show jumping across Europe. It's great that his federation and his owners have supported him coming across to jump in America this spring as well. Rolls that meter 60 vertical after the triple bar, but it stays in place. Rowan is really hustling speed-wise around this track, so he's got to make sure of each and every jump when he gets there, so that the speed doesn't turn into an error and a pole. He'll have had plenty of support, no doubt, from Scotty Keach, who knows this venue so well. Well, what a day for Australia. 71.41. Not only is he clear, but he is super fast. By far and away the fastest round of jumping we've had. Rowan Willis and Blue Movie go into the lead, and a win here would be one of the biggest wins of Rowan Willis's career. A 5-star Longines Grand Prix win. So, he is the first clear. We need other clears to be achieved before we have a jump off. He just put it all together, maybe riding a little bit faster than he would with Blue Movie, but used all his experience and his talent that when he got fast to each jump, he then sat up and he made sure of each jump. Well, a top 10 finisher in the World Cup qualifier at Washington, D.C. in October, Christine Mcrae with Candy Tribble's Nectarina B. Christine was top 10 in this very class last year, 4th in the Spring Grand Prix at Old Salem, a Pan Am Games individual and team gold medalist in Guadalajara in 2011. Chris has ridden in 3 World Cup finals and has ridden Nations Cup for the United States previously at Jalapa in Mexico and T-Bird in British Columbia. Well, the Great American Insurance Group fence is down early on the track, so Rowan Willis remains our only 0 score. Christian thinking about this final line, would like to hold it to 4 faults and inside the time allowed. She's got just 10 seconds to get home now. It is doable. Six strides over the last. Just over 74.04 for Chris Mcrae. So that's going to go into 5th place, just behind the 4 faulters. It's going to be difficult for anyone to get 5 faults faster than Chris Mcrae. But 4 for jumping, 1 for time for Candy Tribble's Nectarina B. The team jacket of Mexico for Nick Pizarro, Nicholas, who jumped the World Cup qualifier at Guadalajara 3 weeks ago before coming up here to Florida, represented Mexico at the London Olympics and the World Games in 2010. He won the Grand Prix at Estado Mayor Presidenciale in Mexico City in November. He's a career Grand Prix winner at Spruce Meadows up in Canada and rode for Mexico on Nations Cup teams at T-Bird in Canada and Jalapa in Mexico last season. Nick Pizarro with Elena Gomez's Aries by Cardento. And like we frequently see in these competitions, the riders now, they've had enough opportunity to watch these lines, see how they're jumping. And although they've walked, still just to make final refinements to their plan, maybe change their warm-up a little bit, change the way they're riding a little bit. We've seen Rowan Willis make the time look very easy. We saw Christine Mcrae get very close. Now, Nick Pizarro has less than 10 seconds here, and he hasn't started jumping the triple combination line, so he's going to lose out on the clock, I would say, and it is going to be another one faulter. Joining Scotty Keach, now they will be divided by closest to the time allowed, and Scott Keach was faster, so Nick Pizarro goes into third place in 77.12. So Rowan Willis is our only clear. Olympian Scott Keach and Olympian Nick Pizarro for Australia and Mexico, both on one fault, hold second and third. And as is ever the situation with a tight time, you've got to make both things happen. You've got to be going fast and you've got to make sure of the jumps. Rowan Willis did that superbly. He really made his mark over here. A lot of the competitors over here, they wouldn't know Rowan terribly well, and he has come in and just really shown them that he means business. And it's going to end up with a really good placing today. You know, at the moment, you would struggle to see maybe even 6 or 7 clears coming back for the jump off today. We go on to Andre Thieme. Andre owns and rides Contendrix for Germany. Andre rode on the German team at St. Gallen and Falsterbo last summer on Nations Cup duty. He's 3 times $1 million class winner here in the United States, including last September at Saugerties. He was second in the World Cup qualifier at Live Oak here in Ocala, Florida. This winter, he jumped North American League World Cup at the Gold Cup in upstate New York in September, and then went back to Europe to jump indoors. This is his first week back in the US jumping internationally this season, and he would surely like to make it count by making it through to the jump off here today. Now Andre just let the horse go a little bit to the left there. That might have just changed the distance, and he had hoped that the horse would be able to read the jump and make it happen over the meter 60 vertical, but unfortunately it just takes the top bar off, so it's 4 faults. But he was just thinking in the back of his mind about how do I get around this course that little bit faster. Doesn't quite reach out over the big white oxer in the middle of the triple combination, has the back bar there and the front bar off the last, so suddenly actually from what seemed like an unlucky 4 faults, suddenly Andre is going to finish in 12 faults, but again inside the time, 72.93. Our 4th combination only to be inside the time allowed. Yeah, actually, when you see the side angle, Andre had to really get behind the horse and push down that distance, and he ended up having to make a really long one over the vertical. Paul O'Shea for Ireland, he won a Grand Prix in Tryon, North Carolina last October at the test event for the World Equestrian Games. Had a good Winter Equestrian Festival down in Wellington in spring of last year and was part of the Irish Nations Cup team that won in Wellington. He won the Longines Cup at the Hampton Classic in 2015. He's a former winner of the Devon Grand Prix in Pennsylvania. He was top 10 in the WEF4 Grand Prix and winner of the two-star Grand Prix last week down in Wellington as well. Skara Glen Stables and Paul's own Skara Glen's presence by Contendro. Ireland with a great record at these shows here, particularly the Nations Cup here in North America. Really rattles the top bar of the first of those verticals with the black castles. So Paul potentially has the time to get home inside that time allowed of 74 seconds. And the instant you start thinking about that, then the pole comes. 4 faults in the triple combination inside the time, 72.95. So Paul O'Shea is going to go into 4th place. He's our fastest 4-faulter at the moment. Just watch this triple combination again. Paul didn't really seem to make any big adjustment. We were just thinking, gosh, yeah, he's got just a little bit more than 10 seconds to get home. And the horse just doesn't reach all the way across to the back bar of the middle part of the Longines triple. Jonathan Mcrae, as we heard there from the arena announcer, Irish-born. He has ridden Nations Cup for Ireland. He has also now ridden Nations Cup for his new country, the United States of America, at both Jalapa in Mexico and T-Bird in Langley, British Columbia. John Mcrae, former winner of the Bromont World Cup qualifier. Top 5 in the Grand Prix at Devon. He won the Bourbon International Grand Prix at Split Rock a season or two ago in Lexington, Kentucky. And was top 5 in a Meter 60 Grand Prix up in Spruce Meadows 2 seasons ago. Jonathan rides for Candy Tribble as well. He rides Aristoteles the 5th. So the double and then that related distance up to the first of the castle verticals catching him out. 4 faults on the card at the moment. Christine Mcrae so unlucky to miss out on the time. She had 1 fault, or 1 pole, and also 400ths over the time allowed. Again, I think he's going to struggle to catch the time. So this is, he will hope, just a 5-fault round. Yep, clear of the last. It is 76.19 and on 5 faults. That's going to go down the order a little bit, just outside the top 10, in fact, at the moment. 11th on that time and score. So coming up to the halfway point of the first round of jumping, we have just 1 clear round. That's Rowan Willis. We have Scott Keach and Nick Pizarro both on 1 fault, holding 2nd and 3rd. Rowan Willis for Australia is our only clear, and we've only had less than half a dozen who've been inside the time allowed of 74 seconds. Well, Mexico will be hoping for big points in the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup Series on Sunday, but today their next hopes rest on Fernando Martinez Summer for individual honours. Fernando had 3 5-star Grand Prix top 10s in Spruce Meadows in Canada last summer. Jumped the 2-star tour at Global Champions Tour Mexico. And rode his first World Cup qualifier of the season 2 weeks ago at the Palm Beach Masters, part of the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. So clear to date for Fernando Martinez Sommer and Korbacka. This final line, the time, it's nip and tuck whether they could get home in 74 seconds from here. The time spent jumping really does come against them on that final line. He's going to be 4 faults for sure. Oh, 200ths inside. Fernando Martinez Sommer and Korbacka are going to be on just 4 faults. That goes into 7th position. Ben Asselin on 4 faults is faster, as is Enrique Gonzalez for Mexico. Nick Pizarro is the best for Mexico in 3rd place at the moment on just the 1 fault for time, but it is Australia out in front. Rowan Willis on a clear and Scott Keach in 2nd on our fastest 1 fault round. Scotty Keach was the very first in the ring, remember, 20 horse and rider combinations ago. Ian Miller and Vittorio. Ian was 5th in the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair World Cup qualifier back last November, a 10-time Olympian. And remember, that also does not include the 1980 Olympics, which the Canadian equestrian team boycotted. And Ian went to the alternate Olympic equestrian jumping at Rotterdam and won gold with the Canadian team there. 14 times a World Cup finalist, back-to-back wins with the great Big Ben. He's been twice Pan Am individual gold medalist as well. The Nations Cup team here in Ocala over the last few seasons has been a real Miller family affair as well. It just bears down a little bit and boots the top rail off the first of those pair of verticals. So still just 1 clear from Rowan Willis as we are over halfway through the first round of jumping. Ian's time seems there or thereabouts. He has the first rail, the second rail, gets away with the third in the triple combination. So it is 12 faults just inside the time for Ian Miller and Vittorio. So we're starting to see the time really starting to be unlocked by these competitors. So that is going to increase the threat to Rowan Willis, but how many people will be able to go the speed necessary whilst maintaining the control to jump this real 5-star technical demanding high track? So we're going to take this very, very short break whilst we set the surface here in the Grand Prix Arena at Hits Ocala back up to tip-top condition. At the moment, we have 1 clear. Rowan Willis for Australia and half of the field looking to join him for a jump-off for the lion's share of the prize money in this $265,000 5-star Longines Grand Prix of Ocala, part of Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup weekend here in the United States of America. We'll be back very shortly. So welcome back to Ocala, Florida. It is Longines FEI Nations Cup jumping weekend. The USA leg coming on Sunday, which means that today, for the first time, it is a Friday running of the Longines Grand Prix. This class is worth $265,000 and sits in the driver's seat as our only clear round. Just before the break, we started to see more and more riders start to achieve that 74 seconds time allowed, but Rowan's the only one who's jumped clear inside the time. Scott Keach for Australia, who was very first in the ring, he jumped clear, but he just missed the time. And Nick Pizarro for Mexico is also on that one fault total, sitting in third place. Kat Tyree is going to get us back underway, the US rider, who's fifth in the Saugerties Million last September, a class she was second in the year before. Road Nations Cup for the US up in T-Bird in Langley, British Columbia last year. A North American Junior Team Silver and Young Rider Team Bronze medalist. Had 3 top 10s at the Hampton Classic, top 5 in the World Cup qualifier at the Gold Cup in upstate New York a few seasons ago. And has, for the last couple of seasons, jumped 5-star over in Europe at the likes of Dinard in France and Nocca in Belgium. Kat rides Enjoy Louis by Coriano, another one out of a Cannon mare. This line hasn't been incident-free, particularly these white verticals. Kat Tyree has the first of them down, then the reverse Liverpool. With 5-stride distance there from the triple bar to that metre-60 vertical. Again, that vertical has been on the floor several times here. This time, though, it's the AIG vertical that comes down for Kat Tyree, putting her on 8 faults. And they need to have more than 10 seconds left on their clock now. So Kat Tyree is very, very nip and tuck as to whether she'll be able to get home inside the time allowed of 74 seconds. Actually really pushes on down that triple combination line faster than some, so she gets home in 72.74, so she's inside the time but has those 8 jumping faults. So as the riders get better and better, they get more experience, they get more opportunities to watch this track, we're going to see the time become less influential, as in more people will achieve, and forcing them to make errors.
So one clear round to the credit of the field, but the next 2 entries were able to come in clear over the fences, but just over the time allowed for a single time limit. Top 3 positions in our standings are spoken for by clear jumping records, and 2 with just a single time holders, Fedor and Scott Keach, your Australian rider.
Roberto Terrantafu for Colombia with Lyubov Koshetova's Brilliant Derouet. Roberto, who won the $1 million class here at HITS Ocala in 2016, has ridden to the Nations Cup finals, the Pan American Games and the World Equestrian Games for Colombia. Top 10 in a good Grand Prix 2 weeks ago down at the Winter Equestrian Festival. So Roberto Terrantafu for Colombia with Brilliant Derouet. Just the second rider for Colombia in our starting field. Roberto's another one who knows how to win a Grand Prix. Again, it's just a question of whether he can make a clear round happen at the pace required to go inside this time allowed. Now, Rowan Willis was super fast. He went 71.41. Time allowed 74 seconds. And Roberto is moving around. They have to steady up and make sure of those two verticals. Is he going fast enough around this bend, though, back to the triple bar? He certainly explodes out of the end of his corner. But maybe too much, too forward, means he rolls the top pole off the vertical. So Rowan Willis remains our only clear round for another turn of the handle. And just by the end of the round, if you keep that speed up, you can end up really flattening the horse's jump, and that was what Roberto was just making sure of wasn't happening as he finished his turn into the FEI Jumping Nations Cup fence in the corner. So inside the time, 4 faults. It's our fastest 4-faulter. It goes into 4th position. Roberto Tafur for Colombia. Rio Olympian for Venezuela, one of the youngest riders in the jumping at those games, Emmanuel Andrade. He's been a gold medalist at the Bolivarian Games, ridden the World Games in 2014 and the Pan American Games in 2015. Just last November, won individual silver and with Venezuela team bronze at the Bolivarian Games. He was just outside the top 10 in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix in Portugal at Cascais, and was 5th in this competition, the Nations Cup Grand Prix here in Ocala 12 months ago. Emmanuel Andrade with Ricourt Courcelles by Caprice Bois Margot. Went very well in the Puissance at the Central Park Horse Show in New York. Holds for that second vertical. He's clear. He just bottles up the canter in that corner. Very rare to see a pole off a triple bar. It is a fence that usually jumps incredibly well, but unfortunately Emmanuel just has that dash of bad luck. And Marina Azevedo can start to tick the fences that have been down on her track off, and we see once again that hallmark of a really top track where the problems are spread well around. So it's 4 for jumping and 1 for time, the first into the time in a little while. Emmanuel Andrade is going to go into 11th position in our Grand Prix at the moment. Now just watch this. He bottled up the turn and the canter, trying to create a real bounce, but it maybe just left him a little bit too far off his takeoff spot for what is therefore a very wide fence, the triple bar. And look how far he ended up off the related vertical. Alison Robitaille, Alison with Bertram and Diana Firestone's ace. America, having been top 5 at Del Mar, top 5 at Washington, runner-up at Vegas. Nations Cup last season at Jalapa in Mexico and Falsterbo in Sweden on Europe Division 1. Took a top 5 finish in the 2-star Tour Grand Prix at Longines Global Champions Tour Miami last spring. Alison has been a Pan Am team silver medalist and a 4-time finalist. So an ace is just looking nice and nippy on this early part of the track. So hopefully the time allowed won't be too much of a problem for them. And then Alison can use her experience to try and make sure that it is a clear inside the time. So just the final line to go. We'll get a feel for the time in just a moment as she approaches the Longines triple combination. She's going to really struggle to catch 74 seconds from there. .74.44 on the clock, unfortunately, so another one on one fault, but it is the fastest of them. Alison Robitaille takes over second place from a long-time runner-up in this competition, Scotty Keach for Australia. So that's the best of the US at the moment. Alison Robitaille on one jumping fault in second place. Rowan Willis remains our only clear.
Taking us in now, lifting number 1023, our next challenger here at Longines Prix. German rider will be piloted by Mcrae.
Well, this is a combination that have been jumping very well here in Florida this spring. Unlucky to miss the jump off last weekend in the 5-star at Wellington. Marcus Beerbaum with Artemis Equestrian Farms' Cool Hand Luke. Marcus was on the Nations Cup for Germany last year at Falsterbo. He rode World Cup qualifier at Stuttgart, the German Masters Show. He's 5 times a World Cup finalist. He's been a world and European team gold medalist with Germany. And as ever, alongside his wife, Meredith Michaels Beerbaum, 3-time World Cup champion, spending the spring season jumping in Wellington, Florida. And the Germans, they could feature here on Sunday. And one of 2 legs running this weekend that open up the account for Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup here in Ocala, Florida, and also in Al Ain in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East. Just waiting to look at the graphic because he just really did trail the top bar of that AIG vertical, but looks like he's still on a 0 score. Maybe just a little bit too slow, though, to catch the time. He could be another one faulter here. Marcus just that little bit right of centre over the last, just trying to shave every second that he possibly can. And it is 1 for time, 75.54 for Marcus Beerbaum and Cool Hand Luke. And he is that little bit slower than Alison Robitaille. He's going to take over third, pushing Scotty Keach and Nick Pizarro further down the order. So all of our top 5 have jumped clear, but only one, Rowan Willis, has jumped clear inside the time allowed. He is still our only 0 score. We need another clear inside the time before we have a jump off to decide this Longines Grand Prix of Ocala, Florida. Eugenio Garza Perez. Eugenio, the 2013 North American Young Rider champion, was top 10 in the World Games test event in Tryon last October. Jumped Nations Cup at T-Bird last summer. He's been on the Nations Cup team here in Ocala for Mexico the last 3 years running. Genio with David and Monica Garza's Armani C. Well placed in the Grand Prix last summer at Bolesworth in Great Britain. Top 10 in the Grand Prix at Nocca in Belgium. And jumped several weeks at Samarin in Slovakia as well. So unfortunately, we haven't actually seen the water tray vertical go very often, but it will be 4 points for Genio. And our fastest 4-faulter, Roberto Terrantafur, in 72.36, holds 6th place at the moment. Eugenio could have been faster than that, but unfortunately picking up another pole in the triple combination line is going to put him on 8 faults. Look at this time, 70.73, faster than anyone around this track. But with 8 faults, that is going to go 19th as things stand. Lauren Huff with Laura and Meredith Mateo's Waterford by Kilcorran Cool Diamond. Lauren was part of the US team that placed second here last year. Top 10 in the Grand Prix at Versailles, Windsor, Sopot and Bolesworth last season. He's a former winner of the Washington World Cup qualifier, a Sydney Olympian, a Pan Am gold medalist, and won the individual and team bronze with the US team at the Pan Ams in Toronto in 2015. Lauren has also won one of those $1 million Grand Prix here in the United States of America. Through performance and ranking, very much on the radar also for US selection for this year's FEI World Equestrian Games in Tryon, North Carolina. Last year, Nations Cup teams here, St Gallen, Dublin, which the US won, and at Hickstead, went to the Nations Cup finals in September then as well. Such a shame, as I was just about to say, she's going to be inside the time, no problem at all. But the triple combination, middle part is down, and the last Oxer as well. Lauren Huff and Waterford, unfortunately, going to be on 8 faults and taking over 19th position from Jenny Ogarza. So, from Lauren Huff to Laura Kraut. Another real backbone of US jumping. Laura with St Bride's Farm, Confu. Laura was second at the Palm Beach Masters World Cup qualifier just a couple of weeks ago. Also rode at the Nations Cup finals in Barcelona. And was alongside Lauren on that winning Dublin Nations Cup team. Also rode Nations Cup teams in Rome and Rotterdam. Laura is an Olympic gold medalist with the US team in 2008. Can she be the US's first clear and give us a jump off? Because Rowan Willis is still our only 0 score. If no one else jumps clear, he will win outright. We need another clear to give us a jump off over Marina Azevedo's short course. Really rolls that meter-60 vertical, but it stays. And then beautifully clear over the next vertical, the AIG. So the final line, Olympic gold medalist Nick Skelton, Laura's partner, watching on, riding every stride up this triple combination line. The time is pretty good. She's out a touch wide coming to the last, but gets a nice strike at it. 73.69. She's done it. She's just inside the time. Laura Kraut and Confu show why they are one of the very, very best in the world. Jump off for this Longines Grand Prix this afternoon. Rowan Willis will go head-to-head with Laura Kraut. 2 in the jump off, and another dozen or so who can. riding from Laura. She has done it under pressure plenty of times before. And this so we could easily see a few more clear rounds. Might one come from this man, Shane Sweetenham, part of the winning Irish team with Spy Coast Farm in his own. Chacky Z, the horse he rode at Gothenburg last summer at the Longines European Championships as part of the Irish team that won Continental Gold. Top 10 in the Longines Grand Prix at Hickstead and at Dublin last season on Nations Cup duty. Shane was second at the Toronto leg of Longines FEI World Cup jumping as well, up at the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. Well, I'm not sure we've seen the first part of the in and out go before, but go it does, unfortunately, for Shane Sweetenham. And maybe just shortening up the turn back from the Great American Insurance Group fence to try and find those strides here and there that will take them inside the time allowed of 74 seconds. Here's the back bar off the triple bar as well. So that is tough, suddenly finding himself on 8 faults. This is a real world-class combination, so it gives you a feel of just how tough this competition is today here in Ocala. Time just over as well by a quarter of a second. 8 for jumping, 1 for time for Shane Sweetenham and Chacky Z. But could easily come back and jump double clear in the Nations Cup on Sunday. And he'd like to do so, trying to help Ireland to back-to-back wins here in Ocala. Dara Kenny, Dara, who took a Winter Equestrian Festival Grand Prix win a couple of weeks ago. Top 10 in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix at Rome last September. Dara rode at the Nations Cup finals for Ireland in 2016 when he won the Barcelona Cup. He's ridden at the World Games 2014 and at the World Cup finals. Last season, third in the Grand Prix at Falsterbo and Dinard at the 5-star level, and 5th in the Grand Prix at Bolesworth in Great Britain. Dara with White Rock Farms Go Easy to Muse by the Belgian warm blood sire Vigo d'Arsuy. Comes in a little bit short of that Great American Insurance Group. The horse so neat and nimble in front makes it look easy though. Helped him save a touch of time early on the track. 1 for Australia and 1 for the USA in the jump off as he picks up a pole. Time looks pretty good, so Dara Kenny should come home on a 4-faulter. Roberto Terran-Tefur, the fastest in 72.36. This is a touch slower. Dara will go 1 place behind into 8th spot. Roberto Terran-Tefur holds on to 7th as fastest 4-faulter. Fault and 2 on 0 will come back to jump off at the moment. 10 more who could yet join them, including the likes of World Cup champion McLean Ward, Olympic gold medalist Beezy Madden, World Cup qualifier winner Daniel Coyle, Olympic medalist Cian O'Connor, Daniel Bloom and 5-star winner just last weekend. Twice an Olympic gold medalist with the US team, McLean Ward. McLean was top 5 at Deer Ridge in the World Cup circuit this year, alongside his second places at Gold Cup in Washington. He leads the North American League. on his way to defend his Longines FEI World Cup jumping title in Paris in just a couple of months' time. He's won big Grand Prix right around the world: Spruce Meadows Masters, Dublin, Geneva, the Hamptons, Devon, Washington, the National Horse Show. Mcrae actually has about a 10% conversion rate. He's ridden in nearly 1,500 Grand Prix and he's won nearly 150 Grand Prix. Riding Double H Farms, Double H Gigi's Girl by Vingino. Over the Chinese lantern fences. Saw a nice long stride there, but then the top bar of that vertical, so we won't see McLean Ward back for the jump off now either. Still just Rowan Willis going head to head with Laura Cright as things stand. This is going to be fast though. 4 faults in just over 70 seconds, 71.75. That's our fastest 4 faulter. It's actually our second fastest time overall. Rowan Willis has been the fastest around the track in 71.41, but McLean Ward goes 7th. Ali Wolf, Ali with Casal, Casal by Casal. Top 10 in the Holidays and Horses Grand Prix in Wellington before Christmas. Nations Cup last year at Falsterbo in Sweden. And 3rd in this Grand Prix here at Hits Ocala last spring. Another North American young rider gold medalist taking that accolade in 2010. Ali was on the winning US Nations Cup team at Jalapa in Mexico a season or 2 ago, and has had consistent Nations Cup selection every year since. Makes a little bit of heavy weather of the first of those castle verticals, but leaves it standing. Two in quick succession down those big verticals. That sort of middle powerful section of the track from the triple bar. There's plenty of jumping to be done everywhere here though on Marina Azevedo's track. Has a good chance of getting home inside the time on 8 faults, but the best anyone on 8 can hope for is 22nd position. So Ali Wolf and Casal take 25th with 8 faults in 73.05.
Taking a sit at the number of the world's best, number 865, up next, here's Fine Lady and Eric Lamont. 3-time Olympic medalist and individual gold medal winner Eric Lamont is 12th.
The 2008 Olympic gold medalist Eric Lamont, world number 12 at the moment with Torrey Pines and Artisan Farms. Fine Lady, his Rio horse. Eric, part of the Canadian team that won gold at the Pan Ams in 2015. Eric was the individual bronze medalist in Rio, former winner of the big Aachen Grand Prix in Germany, and had a top 10 finish in the 5-star Grand Prix at WEF last weekend. He's been top 10 last season in both the Grand Prix and the King's Cup at Windsor, top 10 in the Geneva Grand Prix, 5th in the Spruce Meadows Masters Grand Prix, and top 10 last summer at Aachen. So incredibly consistent at the moment, but just not turning that consistency into a win. A 5-star win today would be very, very useful. Those rankings, monthly rolling Longines rankings, are going to change next month. Our thoughts go out to Kent Farrington, who unfortunately suffered an injury yesterday here in Florida that's going to see him off the road for a little while. The world number 1, he has been world number 1 for the guts of the last year. Eric is jumping well and jumping fast around this Marina Azevedo track. Well, that is so unfortunate, just coming a little bit hot down that final line. Has the first rail off the triple combination. He's clear, he's so fast. He's 69.75. So that is 7th position, fastest 4-faulter for Eric Lamar's and Fine Lady. So Canada can't win today. They will turn their attention now to Sunday, when they would dearly love to win, to try and start their journey to the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup finals in Barcelona in September. But at the moment, it's between Australia and the USA in the jump-off, and Ireland, more for the USA, Brazil and Israel with opportunities to join. And the first to take up that opportunity is Israel's Daniel Blumen with Ladriano. Daniel Blumen has won the Grand Prix down at Wellington the last 2 weeks running, including last week's 5-star Grand Prix. Rode for Colombia at 2 Olympics, 2 World Games and the Pan Ams. His mother and his wife are Israeli, so he took the opportunity to change for the 2017 season. Daniel has won the $500,000 Grand Prix at WEF. He's won the 5-star at Chantilly. Been on the podium at Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix at Chantilly and Hamburg. Ridden to Nations Cup finals, won the Puissance in Dublin, won the Central Park Horse Show Grand Prix, the Hampton Classic, and been 3rd in the 5-star $1 million Grand Prix at Saugerties. At the moment, clear would just be clear round number 3, joining Rowan, Willis and Laura Kraut. Jumping well, but is he fast enough as things stand? The lightest of taps on that AIG sees it fall for 4 faults, so no Israeli in the jump off here today. That has been rarely on the ground, but it goes front rail sadly for Daniel Blumen. So 8 faults coming up very, very quick. It's going to be fast. Just over the 70 seconds mark, 71.83 and 8 faults for Daniel Blumen and Ladriano here in this Longines Grand Prix of Ocala.
Takes us down to our final 6 entries in our first round. But the Rio, a nearly unbeatable force in the Grand Prix circuit in Mexico, is going next to represent Brazil aboard Mcrae.
Brazil had a tremendous Rodrigo jumped 5-star at Spruce Meadows last summer, and Rodrigo in just his 2nd week jumping in North America this season rides Mario Oñate's Vellini. Best Brazilian rider at the moment is Felipe Amaral in 16th position on a 5-fault total. And these riders here today as well, they're looking to make sure that they're on their chef to keep selection for the team on Sunday in the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup. This is certainly one way to get selected. Come home and give us our 3rd clear round. Great job, Rodrigo Lamre and Vellini, our clear round number 3. 3 clears, 3 different nations, Australia, the United States of America and Brazil will at the moment go head-to-head, and they'll come back in the order they qualify.
Great execution, keeping it just within that 74-second time allowed in 73.24 and hold free over the fences. Gets Rodrigo Longines and Longines to punch for the jump off. Now only 5 entries remaining in this first round before we'll make our adjustments for what's shaping up to be a great jump off in the international field.
Well, we stay with Brazil. Yuri Mansour. He won the Longines Grand Prix. He was part of the Brazilian team that won the Nations Cup at Hickstead last year. Twice a World Cup finalist. 4th in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix at Hamburg. He was just outside the top 5 in the Longines World Cup jumping qualifier at Stuttgart in Germany in November. Yuri Mansour with his own and Eurostable's Babylot by Dollar de Murier. Looking to make it 2 for Brazil. This is Brazil's last throw of the dice in the first round. So Yuri, again, just showing his experience riding very positively around the first part of the track, trying to make sure he's up on the clock, but delivering the clear jumps that he needs as well. He really rattles the first part of those castle verticals. It has gone so often just recently. It's one of the places where the riders, I think, feel that they can make up a little bit of time, but to barrel down to that meter 60 vertical, you really need to create a good bouncy canter for the horse to jump from, and they're just risking it a little bit too much, and the risk is not paying off. It's 4 faults in a very good time for Yuri Mansour, but the 4 faults are what is going to keep him out of the jump-off and in 9th position. Yeah, as careful as the horse is, just coming down at that pace to the big vertical. Didn't have much choice but to just clip it a little bit on the way up. Any degree of luck, it might have stayed in place, but luck wasn't on their side today, so Yuri Mansour on 4. Well, this is a pretty new ride for last year's Grand Prix winner here in Ocala. This is Clenur, the former Marco Kuchar ride. Cian O'Connor in the irons. Cian was on the winning Nations Cup team here and won this Grand Prix last year. Cian was the individual Olympic bronze medalist at London 2012, individual bronze and team gold at last year's European Championships in Gothenburg, Sweden. With this horse, he was 3rd with 1 time fault. He was the top-ranked rider outside the jump-off in last weekend's 5-star Grand Prix at the Winter Equestrian Festival. And they're getting more used to it. Cian is getting more used to the way this horse jumps. It really throws its front legs out over the jump. He's actually creating a really nice shape of jump up those 4 fences in a line there from the in-gate right up to this top corner of the arena. But that big exuberant jump is time in the air. And that can be costly when the time is tight. If you've been watching the Winter Olympics at all, but one of the things that's come out from recent statistical analysis is that everyone used to think that jumping time in downhill ski racing was good time. Now they find that actually the sooner you can get back on the ground and start skiing again, the better for you. Look at this time. Oh my goodness, 75.06. It's going to be, for the second week in a row, one time fault for Cian O'Connor with Clenure, but they are really coming together as a partnership. He's in top 5 at the moment. He's guaranteed top 10. He's guaranteed some prize money today, but it won't be back-to-back wins, and 3 more who could go in front of him and knock him out of the top 5. So winner of the American Gold Cup last September, also top 5 in the World Cup qualifier at the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky, Devon Ryan. Devon with LI show jumpers Eddie Blue. Just 9 years old, this horse. Jumped the Longines Paris Masters, was 6th in the Saugerties Million last September. Took a class win at this show last year, and Devon was 2nd in the Devon Grand Prix in Pennsylvania. So Laura Kraut, the only US representative in the jump-off at the moment. Can Devon make it through? He's here as part of the Nations Cup squad. He's one of the riders from whom Robert Ridland will choose his team for Sunday's Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup competition. And a good clear today would certainly help seal the deal for that selection. Has to hold to the second of those verticals, the one with the reverse Liverpool water tray. And it's not a course on which, you know, you feel now, having watched it for a while, you can afford to take a pull and hold. But if there's anywhere to do it, that is probably the place. We've seen a few people just let their jump flatten out and have that AIG vertical. But he is dicing with time faults here. Big time in the air over the middle part of the triple combination as well. Over the Longines last. Just catches the time. 72.98, 1.02 seconds inside. Devon Ryan is clear. It's 2 for the United States of America in a 4-horse jump-off at the moment. But this horse is an absolute prodigious talent. Eddie Blue, look at the time spent in the air over the middle part of that triple combination. That could have so easily cost them a time fault. Devon locks on the last, gets a super clean jump and doesn't stop riding off. He's well beyond the timing beam. Just over a second inside, more than comfortably inside. Devon Ryan joins Laura Kraut for the United States of America in our 4-horse jump-off, going head-to-head with Rodrigo Lambre and Rowan Willis. Daniel Coyle, ranked in the world's top 50. The Irishman who took the World Cup qualifier at the Palm Beach Masters a fortnight ago. Put together with points scored at the Royal West and the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair up in Canada. He is in the qualification zone at the moment for the FEI World Cup jumping finals in Paris. Jump Nations Cup for Ireland at T-Bird 2 seasons ago, at Hickstead in Great Britain last year, and he was part of the winning lineup in the Dublin Puissance at home last year as well. Daniel with Tiena picked up the ride on Ariel and the late Susan Granger's horses a couple of seasons ago, and he has been a real winning machine, particularly here in the springtime in Florida. Yeah, he'll got a super bounce as well off that World Cup qualifier win at Deerage in Wellington. And sometimes success just breeds success. Again, just pushing it a little bit into the triple combination, and he gets a full house there, all 3 parts down for 12 faults in a very good time, 70.78, but unfortunately just risking it for the time cost him all 3 parts of the triple combination there. Daniel Coyle and Tiena mean that there will be no Irish representative in the jump-off today, and the maximum size of jump-off we can have is 5. 4 qualified at the moment, 1 more to start in this first round. BZ Madden and HHS Hercules, owned by Abigail Wexner. BZ was on the US team here last year. She placed second in the Grand Prix to Cian O'Connor. Last year, went to the Nations Cup finals for the US, having been on the winning Nations Cup team in Dublin. The first ever lady winner of the King George at Hickstead. She won again the following year to show it was no fluke. 10-time World Cup finalist and World Cup champion in 2013. So the moment, 2 for the United States in our 4-horse jump-off. Can BZ make it 5? It will actually be, it's only going to be 4. BZ won't go through to the jump-off, and now she has to be faster than Eric Lemaze in 69.75 to take top 10 if she can stay on 4 faults. Last year, just 3 clear rounds in the first round of this Grand Prix, and 2 on 1 fault to round out the top 5. So we've had more first round clears this year, but more have jumped the track clear because we have 5 on 1 fault. BZ Madden and Hercules, unfortunately, on 8 faults to date. Well, the Longines Nations Cup fence is down, putting BZ on 12 as she heads towards home. Should be all right on the clock, but 16 jumping faults. Clear the last. It's a 16 fault total for one of the US's very, very best, but not quite her day today. Finishing on those 16 faults and down the order 39th position. So 4 are going to come back. They'll come back in the order in which they qualified. That will be Rowan Willis for Australia, Laura Kraut for the United States of America, Rodrigo Lambre for Brazil, and Devon Ryan for the United States of America. So the home side with 2 chances to take their Longines Grand Prix here at Ocala, the home Nations Cup show for the first time in a couple of years. Alison Robitaille is the fastest 1 faulter, taking 5th. Cian O'Connor, last year's winner here with his new ride, Clenor, he is going to finish in 6th position. Marcus Beerbaum will be just in front of Scotty Keach. He gave us our first clear over the poles in a time of 76.84. Nick Pizarro, Mexican Olympian. Eric Lemaze, former Olympic champion, is our fastest 4-faulter and just sneaks into the top 10 in a time of 69.75. There you see the rest of the results on down the order. Plenty on 4, plenty on 5 as well. The time being very influential in the first half of the draw earlier on today. There you can see Chris Mcrae in 19th. As one of our fastest 5-faulters, 400ths outside the time allowed. Team here are going to set up the short track. Marina Azevedo has selected a short course of jumps, and we'll have 4 coming back to take it on here very shortly from Ocala, Florida, in the Longines Grand Prix, part of Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup weekend here in the United States of America. Welcome back to Ocala, Florida. We are just a few minutes away from the four-horse jump-off in today's $265,000 Longines Grand Prix. And here they are, coming back in the order in which they qualified. British-based Australian Rowan, Willis and Blue Movie. They were our only clear for such a long time. Laura Crowd Confu, though, just showed her great experience and great partnership with this horse to give us clear round number 2. Then it was Rodrigo Lambre and Vellini, and finally Devon Ryan and the young prodigy horse Eddie Blue for the United States of America, making it 2 for the US, and Devon goes last with his Gold Cup winner from upstate New York last September on the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping Series. This is the first weekend of sport in the new Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup. Thus, Grand Prix is today, Friday, and the team competition, the very best team riders in the world, going head-to-head here on Sunday afternoon. You won't want to miss that.
Your Australian rider coming in to lay down the time. It's Rowan Willis with the right aboard Blue Movie.
Rowan been jumping in Britain for years, jumping across Europe the last few years. Last summer, a real breakthrough. He won a Grand Prix in Bratislava. He won 2 Grand Prix in Samarin in Slovakia. But this would be the biggest win of his career, a 5-star Grand Prix win at a Nations Cup show. Rowan is actually going to celebrate his birthday this Sunday. Starts off over the Chinese lantern fence. Now that's been made into an oxer for the jump-off. Loops back to the first of those 2 castle verticals. Gets inside the Longines clock on his way to fence 1. Across the arena now to this new fence, fence 16. This wasn't jumped at all in the first round. "27 seconds over the Great American Insurance Group." He follows, or indeed reverses, the original course from 4, the Great American, back to fence 3, Purina, and now up this final line. 2 parts of the triple combination remain. Vertical, oxer, pushing on towards the last now. Rowan has the bit between his teeth. He pushes for the last. He's double clear in the 5-star Longines Grand Prix. He's clear in 47.46. Could it be enough? By qualifying for this jump-off, he was guaranteed top 4. Now he's jumped double clear. He's put the pressure on the others. They've got to replicate that double clear performance at the very least to stand any chance. If they're faster than him, but they have poles on the ground, Rowan stays in front. Well, you wouldn't bet against any of the horse and rider combinations in this jump-off. We could easily have 4 double clears here, such as the quality. Laura Kraut with St. Bride's Farms, Confu, US Olympic medalist and Nations Cup regular, hoping to be faster than 47.46. It's a long jump-off track as well. Unfortunately, what was the first fence is down, fence 1. So now Laura has to decide, okay, has Rowan put so much pressure on us that I'm better trying to get home on 4 in the hopes that others will have more errors, or do I keep the pressure up? Do I keep the pace up and try and go for the fast 4 fault and try and stay right in the mix, maybe for a podium? Really difficult tactics at play here in such a small jump-off. Laura's coming home. 47.46 was the time to beat. So she is on a decent time here. 49.25 with 4 faults. And again, because the Grand Prix is normally the last class, the tactics here on Friday are going to be different because Laura and Confu have to be on Robert Ridland's radar to jump Nations Cup here on Sunday in the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup of the USA. So they want to keep some petrol in the tank for that 2-round performance on Sunday in the hopes of representing their country, the United States of America, to the very best of their ability at this home Nations Cup show. So Brazil's Rodrigo Lambre. Vellini is the ride for the number 3 to qualify for the jump-off. Top 10 a couple of weeks ago in a World Cup qualifier at Guadalajara on the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. At the moment, double clear guarantees a podium. But there's a big change here in money between first and second. Rowan Willis has his hand on the lion's share of $265,000. And of course, the prize winners Longines, the new Conquest VHP. I don't think Rodrigo's going to quite catch him on time here. Rowan has once again set a very, very strong challenge for the others to try and measure up to. So he is double clear. He's clear in 48.92. That is slower into second place. So at the moment, the USA are sitting and waiting for their first double clear and potentially the win. Devon Ryan to come forward in just a moment. Rodrigo Lambre made sure of his clear round. He was about 1.5 seconds slower than Rowan Willis. The pink US team coat for Devon Ryan with Eddie Blue, the winner of the American Gold Cup last September on the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. He was a class winner at this Ocala Nations Cup show last year. 2 classes you'd like to win at the Nations Cup show, the Longines Grand Prix and the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup leg. And with this talented 9-year-old Eddie Blue, Devon could do both. He had to really go for it against the clock in the Gold Cup. A young horse, just 8 years old then. That was a real decision by Devon to put that pressure on this young horse, and it answered superbly. See where he is down here. It was 27 seconds for Rowan Willis over that Great American Insurance Group fence. The same for Devon Ryan. He's got to stay at this pace. He's got to stay clear. At the moment, he's probably got Rodrigo Lambre. He's probably safely got second place, but could it be a US win? 47.46 to beat. Devon Ryan and Eddie Blue are just behind, 48.17. It's second place for the United States of America. And Rowan Willis, who delivered the first clear round in the Longines Grand Prix, holds on right the way through to win the Longines Grand Prix and the lion's share of $265,000, the biggest career win for Rowan Willis, the UK-based Australian rider. What a testament it has been to the support he's received from Australia, the Federation, and of course his owners to come here and jump at this Nations Cup show, and how richly they have been rewarded with that incredibly impressive win. Devon Ryan impress, so very, very close on the clock, and of course a double clear over this big trap. And this big track is going to be a representation of what they'll come back and face over 2 rounds in the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup on Sunday. Laura Crowd finishes 4th. Rodrigo Lambre with the slowest double clear is 3rd. And then it's back to those first round results for the likes of Alison Robitaille and last year's winner here of the Grand Prix of Ocala, Cian O'Connor. This year riding Clenure, finishing on 1 fault and 6th position. But what a 41-horse world-class Longines Grand Prix. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our coverage of this Grand Nations Cup show this season, so don't forget to tune into that. It'll be broadcast on FEI TV, on Facebook, and on FEI YouTube as well. And join us on FEI TV on Sunday for the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup of the United States of America, and we'll be bringing you the action there. going on air at 10 before 1 o'clock. That's Eastern Standard Time, 5 hours behind the UK, 6 hours behind Central Europe. And our first horse will be in the ring at 1 p.m. 6 nations go head-to-head to see points on the road to Barcelona from the North Central American and Caribbean League of Longines. The United States of America, it is a very important weekend of jumping for them in a series that will include legs at Jalapa in Mexico, in Langley, British Columbia. Don't miss a moment of the action with us this weekend on FEI TV. But for the moment, we'll throw it down to the bowl for the Longines Awards coming up, including the presentation of that Conquest VHP to Rowan Willis, a first Longines for him in his career for Australia. But for the moment, from me, John Kyle, and the team, Florida, and the Longines FEI Nations Cup jumping weekend.
Stick around and join us to make some noise for an exciting class here in our Longines Grand Prix. Of course, a great preface to this weekend's competition as our final class of the schedule here in the Ocala Horse Property Stadium today. But lots more coming up, including our Nations Cup competitions for our junior and children's riders in tomorrow's schedule, as well as a $25,000 Smart Pack Grand Prix, a $35,000 international competition in our Hits Classic, all leading us up to our final Sunday. The Sunday competition that really ramps up, as of course our junior and children's riders have the great international classes prefacing our $7,500 Junior Amateur Owner Classic competition. Then it's our lead line entries that take the stage in front of our half circuit awards winners in our Parade of Champions on Sunday afternoon. And of course, it all culminates here in our Nations Cup competition week with our $450,000 Longines FEI Nations Cup, where 7 countries will be represented in international competition in our team scoring format. Amazing competition left for us here at our Hits Horse Shows week number 5. During our Ocala Winter Festival Horse Show Week, the first of 2 FEI competition weeks on schedule here. So you'll expect to see the best come out time after time here at our Hits Ocala Winter Series, and of course in the coming days as well. Again, if you passes, be sure to get your order. One of the best seats in the house with shade and the cash bar to go along with the exciting Nations Cup action on Sunday afternoon.